Every once in a while, a rider comes along and completely revolutionizes the sport. There was Bob Hanna and his dominance.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Hurricane Hanna!
Jeremy McGrath completely changing how we think about Supercross.
Here comes Carmichael. The checkers for Jeremy.
Ricky Carmichael redefined how we train for the sport, but nobody has revolutionized the sport in the way that James Stewart has.
And that shoved him into
Look
Menard.
at
He did it. And here's Stewart with a big whip. Watch Stewart to the inside.
Today, we're going to be looking at 2003 Budds Creek, a race that truly changed the sport of motocross forever. So to give you some context, James is the talk of the town right now. This is his first race back after crashing out of the Supercross finals in Las Vegas. James is rejoining the series for stop number 5 at Budds Creek, where we find Michael Brown and Ryan Hughes locked in a heated battle for the points lead, and there is actually quite a bit of drama going on between the two of them. They tangled at the previous round, and they also tangled in practice. Hughes ended up being injured and unable to compete due to the contact from Brown in practice, and all of that drama was still overshadowed by the fact that James Stewart was returning to the series. Everybody got to see James come out and dominate the year before in his rookie pro motocross season, and he not only put on some spectacular rides, but he was also your champion at the end of the year. So everyone's excited to have this spectacular rider back, the defending champion, and we're all curious to see exactly what he can do after returning so quickly from such a hard crash. Listening to James talk, you could tell that he didn't want to underestimate anybody, but that he also had a high level of confidence even though it was his first race back.
Realistically, I can just, race, win motos and let the points set himself out and sort themselves out. And, I'm just trying to go out there and win as many motos as I can and just try to start where I left at. And hopefully that's not on the ground, but we'll see when we get out there.
As the riders lined up for Moto number 1, things looked a bit different this year as the promoter Jonathan Beasley had decided to run the track in the opposite direction. This was especially significant because that meant you would be ascending the iconic Henry Hill instead of descending it. Either way, as the gate dropped, James Stewart was off to a pretty good start, and before you knew it, he had a massive lead going. The fans seemed to be thoroughly enjoying the display that James was putting on, but if only they knew what was to come next. Stewart ended up cruising in for the win in his first moto back, and he did it with a massive 47-second lead over Grant Langston in second.
James Stewart doesn't miss a beat, picks up the victory here in Moto number 1. Welcome back, Bubba.
It was clear to see that the champ was back, and some were even speculating that he might even still be in the championship fight. James didn't seem too interested in the speculation though. He just wanted to go out there, try his best to get the best result possible, and he would have to do exactly that in the second moto because as the gate dropped, Steve Boniface would cut over aggressively to the right. This ended up causing James to go flipping and crashing, and everyone looked on in shock at first to see if he was okay, and then to see exactly how far up he could charge.
Back in the back of the pack, James Stewart goes down. James Stewart is in dead last, 40th place.
Stewart almost immediately caught back up to the back of the pack, and we saw him start blowing by people like they were standing still. It started to become apparent that we were going to witness something great, but just how great was not quite clear. The question was, how far up can Stewart get?
If he gets in the top 3, the place is going to come unglued. James Stewart in 40th place, now moving up to 35th.
All eyes, and even more importantly, all cameras were on James as he ripped his way back up through the field, and by the time they made it back to the mechanics area, he was already up to 17th place.
He's already in 17th.
Unbelievable.
As much as Todd Harris and David Bailey thought what they had seen so far was unbelievable, what they were about to see next would blow everything else out of the water. James continued making flawless passes lap after lap on a track that other riders had described as hard to pass on. While it may have been hard to pass on, it didn't really matter because James was making his own way, and before anybody could fully wrap their mind around what was really happening, James was already in 3rd place and closing in fast on 2nd place Brock Sellers. As James and Brock went up Henry's Hill backwards, everybody saw James preload off of a braking bump and go into what would later become known as a Bubba Scrub. This type of move was so unconventional and executed so flawlessly that it quite literally left the announcers speechless.
You passed me so. Oh. All right, I got it. What?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I got to see
Brock
that again. You know what? I don't even remember what I was saying. When he laid it over off of that jump.
Look at that.
Okay, there's another one.
Thankfully, photographer Chris Tedesco had made the trek up Henry's Hill. He was locked in on James, and he ended up capturing this epic shot. Fox Racing would later use this image to create the iconic Bubba Scrub poster. It's also worth noting that this is not the first time that James ever attempted to do a scrub, but this was the first time he did one like this in the spotlight. The crash off the start, combined with his incredible bike skill and confidence, created the perfect storm for this iconic clip of James pitching it sideways over Henry's Hill. The story doesn't end here though. James continued his march forward and began trying to track down the race leader, Ivan Tedesco, the brother of the man who captured the image that we just saw.
Your leader, number 259, James Bubba Stewart, who was in 40th. I say again, was in 40th, is now in 2nd place, and Ivan Tedesco has got a tall order ahead of him.
Ivan did his best to hold off James as long as he could, but it began to become clear that he was going to be passed by James. It was just a matter of when. What was not as clear at this moment was the huge impact that the scrub that James had just done would have not only on the championship later on this season, but just in the sport in general. As James began to close in on the rear wheel of Ivan, he eventually squared him up and cut under him in one of the tighter corners, and the crowd absolutely loved it.
Unbelievable. James Bubba Stewart is your leader.
I think Ivan had to know that was coming. You know, he can't be mad. Now the crowd's making noise first.
As James started off on the final lap, the reality of what he had just accomplished began to set in. The fact that he came from pretty much dead last to first was still overshadowing the scrub that he did in the race at this moment, but it wouldn't be that way for much longer.
They've just seen, perhaps, you know, something that's never going to be done again.
Well, in a highly competitive class like this, your winner from last to first, James Bubba Stewart. Welcome back to the circuit, Mr. Stewart.
James would end up finishing the day with 1-1 scores, and he would even record the fastest lap time of the day. He was half a second faster than any other rider, even the fastest 250 rider that day, Ricky Carmichael. After the race, other riders began to see the videos and the picture of James's scrub, and it became apparent that if you wanted to be competitive, not only should you learn it, but you were going to have to learn it if you wanted to keep up with James. The impact of this scrub would be felt as soon as the Washougal round of this championship, as we saw championship points leader Michael Brown going down after clipping his front wheel while trying to scrub the approach to Horsepower Hill. You could argue that Brown probably felt the pressure of both Langston and Hughes closing back in on him in the points, and that he thought it was necessary to try to push the limits. As a result of that, he did mess up on a scrub, he went down, and interestingly enough, as he was trying to get off of the track, he was hit by Ryan Hughes, the same rider that he took out of the series earlier that year by running into him, and what ultimately ended up happening is Brown was knocked out of the series with an injured shoulder. While you could argue that poor flagging caused Hughes to hit Brown, I would argue that Brown, feeling like he needed to scrub, put him on the ground in the first place.
Brown stands up, and look at that. Just cold-cocks him. Brian Hughes had nowhere to go. Brownie was trying to get out of the way, and Hughes just came over that blind hill.
While I would agree that the flagger definitely could have done a much better job, I do also think it's interesting that this probably never happens if Michael Brown didn't even know to try to scrub that jump. James would finish off the season strong, going undefeated in every single moto that year, and he eventually climbed his way all the way to third in the points, only 30 points behind eventual championship winner Grant Langston, even though when he started the season he was at a 154-point deficit. Over the years, we saw James perfect the scrub, and we quickly saw more and more riders doing their version of the scrub. Nowadays, it's pretty common to see a scrub, it's almost normalized, but it was not that long ago that the scrub was quite literally unheard of. Then one day, one man did it at one race and brought it to the forefront of our sport. And ever since then, the sport's never been the same. And that's why I wanted to come in here and make this video. I personally think this is a really cool moment in motocross history, and I feel like it's generally pretty easily forgotten. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I try my best to put together a complete story. If you guys made it this far and you would like to show your appreciation, the best thing you can do for me is subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.